Family can be a blessing, but when boundaries disappear, it can quietly become a danger. Tade understood this truth deeply, even though he had never said it out loud before. That evening, he sat across from his siblings in a bright hotel lounge that felt warmer than usual, but something about the air was tight, almost heavy. Conle leaned back in his chair, smiling like nothing serious was going on. Sola stood beside him, arms folded, watching everything like a man who preferred silence over words. Bisi sat calmly, her face soft and gentle, the kind of face that made people feel safe. Anyone watching them would think this was a loving family having a simple discussion, but Tade knew better now. He had heard too much the night before. He had seen behind the curtain. Slowly, he closed the file in front of him and placed it neatly on the table. "I won't sign anything tonight," he said in a calm,
I won't
steady
sign
voice.
anything
No
tonight.
anger, no hesitation, just a quiet decision. The room went silent for a moment. Then Bisi smiled softly. "That's fine," she said. "Tonight is not for stress." Conle
That's
laughed
fine.
lightly.
Tonight is not for stress.
Exactly.
Tomorrow is your wedding. No need to think about serious things.
Family comes first.
Sola nodded once. Family comes first. Tade stood up, his expression unreadable. "Thank you," he said, and without waiting for another word, he walked out. Welcome to the sweetest African folk tales stories, where we bring to you the sweetest folk tales to nourish your mind and soul. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notifications bell so we can grow together, sweet folks. The moment Tade stepped outside, the sound of music and laughter wrapped around him like a mask. The reception hall was alive, filled with bright lights, moving bodies, and soft music that made everything look peaceful. Guests laughed freely, glasses clinked, and waiters moved quickly from table to table. At the center of it all stood Amara, his bride, calm and radiant. She wasn't loud, yet people were naturally drawn to her. There was something about her presence that felt steady. Then his family approached her. Tade stopped and watched from a distance. Bisi reached for Amara's hands with a warm smile. "My daughter, you look beautiful." Conle walked around her, nodding with approval. This dress, perfect choice. Sola joined her friends, making small jokes that made them laugh easily. Anyone watching would believe they had always loved her. Tade's jaw tightened slightly. These were the same people who once questioned every move Amara made, the same people who warned him about her. Now they were warm, welcoming, almost protective. Amara noticed him and walked over and slipped her hand into his. She whispered
Yes, very
softly,
kind.
"Your family is very kind." Tade smiled faintly.
Your family is very kind.
Very kind.
Yes, very
But
kind.
inside, his mind stayed alert because he had learned something the hard way. Kindness that appears overnight is never random. Tade didn't confront them. He didn't question them. Instead, he watched, carefully, quietly. He noticed the little things others would miss. The way Bisi smiled, but her eyes kept moving, scanning people, observing reactions. The way Kunle laughed loudly, yet kept checking his phone every few minutes like he was waiting for a signal. Sola barely spoke, but his attention never left any serious conversation happening around him. This wasn't normal. This wasn't peace. This was coordination. Tade played his role perfectly. He laughed when needed, he greeted guests, he danced briefly. On the outside, he looked relaxed, a happy groom enjoying his night. But inside, his mind was working fast. Quietly, he slipped his phone out and sent a message to his lawyer. "They've changed their approach. Stay alert." Then another message to his security head. "No relaxation. Same instructions." Across the room, Bisi raised her glass toward him with a proud smile. Tade lifted his glass in return. Kule walked over and tapped his shoulder. "You did well," he said. "You deserve happiness." Tade nodded slowly. "We all do." But deep inside, he had already decided something important. He wouldn't rush, he wouldn't react emotionally. He would wait, because when people believe their plan is working, they relax, and that is when they make mistakes. The next morning, nothing changed. In fact, things became even more intense. The kindness didn't reduce, it increased. Tade noticed it immediately. Bisi arrived early, nodding gently before entering the room with a tray of breakfast. "You both need strength," she said softly as she placed it down. "Marriage is not easy." Amara smiled warmly. "Thank you, Auntie. This means a lot." Not long after, Kunle called. "Did you sleep well?" he asked cheerfully. "Yes," Tade replied calmly. "Good. Enjoy yourselves," he said before hanging up. Even Sola, who rarely checked in, sent a message. "Take it easy. No pressure." Tade read the message twice before putting his phone down. Too much care. Too much attention. It
She
didn't
talked a
feel
lot
natural.
about
Later,
family,
he sat beside
trust,
Amara as she
how women
arranged some
should support
clothes
each other.
neatly. She looked up at him
She
and
talked a
smiled.
lot
"They're
about
really
family,
trying," she said.
trust,
"Maybe they were
how
just
women should
worried
support
before."
each other.
Tade studied her face. She was sincere, pure. "Maybe," he replied quietly, but inside him something remained firm. People who truly love you don't change overnight, and if they do, it's not love, it's a strategy. That afternoon, BC appeared again, this time more relaxed. "Amara," she said casually, "come with me. Let's get a few things from the house, just small things you might need." Amara turned to Tade. "Should I go?" Tade smiled gently. "Go ahead." For a brief second, BC's eyes flickered. It was quick, almost invisible, but
Go
Tade
ahead.
caught it, and that was enough. The moment they left, his expression changed completely. He picked up his phone immediately. "Follow them," he told his security head. "No interference, just observe." Then he called his lawyer. "Stay on standby. Things are moving faster." After the call, Tade sat quietly, his mind calm but focused. He wasn't angry anymore. He wasn't confused. He was clear. Because real traps don't come with force, they come with comfort. And right now, his family was being too comfortable. Hours later, Amara returned. She wasn't upset, she wasn't afraid, but something about her had changed slightly. She looked thoughtful. Tade noticed it immediately. "How was it?" he asked gently. Amara sat down slowly. "It was fine," she said. "She talked a lot." Tade leaned forward slightly. "About what?" Amara hesitated. "Family, trust, how women should support each other," she paused before continuing. "And you?" Tade's eyes narrowed slightly. "About what?" "She asked questions," Amara said carefully. "About your plans, your children, your decisions." Tade nodded slowly. There it was. He didn't interrupt, he didn't react. That night, while Amara slept peacefully, his phone vibrated. It was a message from his security head. "Sir, BC made 3 stops. One was not planned." Another message followed. "She met someone privately." Then a third. Sola joined briefly. They discussed documents. Tade placed the phone down slowly. Now, everything was clear. Tade stared at the ceiling for a long time that night. The pieces were no longer scattered. They had formed a clear picture. This wasn't a concern. This wasn't love. This was strategy. Carefully planned, carefully executed, and now slowly falling apart. He exhaled deeply and closed his eyes for a moment. "So, this is how it ends," he whispered quietly. But instead of reacting, he made a decision. He would stop reacting completely. No more emotional responses, no more confusion. From this point forward, everything would be calculated. The next morning, Kunle visited alone, smiling like everything was normal. "We're proud of you," he said. "You've changed." Tade poured him a drink calmly. "Marriage does that," he replied. Kunle leaned forward slightly. "We should protect what we've built together." Tade nodded slowly. "Yes, together." But inside, everything had shifted. He was no longer the man they thought he knew. He was no longer blind. He was watching now. And this time, he wasn't just listening. He was preparing. That night, Tade stood by the window staring at the city lights of Lagos. Cars moved endlessly, people chasing their own lives, unaware that a quiet war was forming behind closed doors. Behind him, Amara slept peacefully, her breathing soft and steady. Tade turned slightly and looked at her. "You don't deserve this," he whispered quietly. Then his thoughts drifted. He heard his father's voice clearly, like it was echoing from the past. "When people talk too much, listen. They always reveal themselves." He exhaled slowly. Then his mother's voice followed. "Family can be a blessing, but blood does not excuse harm." Tade closed his eyes briefly. For years, he had been the one carrying everyone, the provider, the problem solver, the one who said yes even when it drained him. And now he finally understood. They didn't see him as family. They saw him as an accessor. His eyes opened slowly, and something inside him settled. Not anger, not pain, clarity. "No more," he said quietly. The next morning, Tade drove a lawn to his parents' old house. It had been years since he stepped into that compound. The walls were slightly faded, the gate a bit rusted, but the air felt different, honest, untouched by manipulation. His phone buzzed, a message from Sola. "We're planning a family dinner tonight, just us." Tade stared at the message for a moment. Before replying, "I'll be there." He slipped his phone into his pocket and looked around again. "You don't fight noise with noise," his father used to say. "You fight it with patience." Tade nodded slowly. That night he would listen again, but this time he wouldn't just hear words, he would read intentions. The dinner that evening looked perfect. Too perfect. The table was arranged neatly, food placed carefully, soft music playing in the background. Everything felt controlled. Bisi laughed lightly. "It's been a while since we sat like this." Conle nodded. "We should do this more often." Sola leaned back quietly, watching. Amara smiled politely. "It's really nice." Tade didn't speak immediately. He observed. He noticed what wasn't said. No one mentioned money. No one mentioned documents. No one mentioned the past. Careful. Too careful. Then Kule raised his glass.
To unity.
"To unity," he said.
To
"To
truth.
tell the truth," Tade added calmly. There
To
was a pause.
unity.
Small but
To
heavy.
truth.
Their smiles didn't break, but their eyes shifted. Tade saw it, and that was enough. After dinner, as everyone stood up, Bisi walked towards Tade and held his hand gently. "You've changed," she said softly. "Marriage suits you." Tade smiled faintly. "My parents would have liked her." For a brief second, Bisi's grip tightened. Then she released it. "Yes," she said quietly, "they would have." That small pause told Tade everything. Fear. Not of him, but of losing control. As she walked away, Tade's mind settled further. They were adjusting, and when people adjust, it means something is no longer working. That meant pressure, and pressure leads to mistakes. Days passed and the pattern shifted again. The calls were reduced. The visits became more calculated. Every word felt measured. Amara noticed it first. "They are watching you," she said one evening. Tade looked at her. "In what way?" "Not badly," she said, "just carefully." Tade nodded slowly. "Do you trust them?" she asked. The question hung in the air. Tade didn't rush his answer. Finally he said, "I trust patterns, and patterns don't lie." Amara didn't ask more. She understood. And that silence between them carried more truth than any conversation. A few days later, Kule invited Tade over. "Just us," he said, "brother to brother." Tade agreed, not out of trust, but purpose. Kule's house was spotless, almost unnatural. Everything was arranged perfectly. They sat across from each other. Kule poured drinks. "You've grown," he said. "You're more balanced now." Tade held the glass but didn't drink. "Or maybe I've lost something," he replied. Kunle laughed. "You overthink." Tade looked at him slowly. There it was, the line people use when they don't want you to think. Kunle leaned closer.
We've always been there for you,"
he said.
Even when your first marriage failed. Family should
Tade
sleep with
said
both eyes
nothing.
closed.
"We carried you," Kunle continued. "Protect you." Tade stood up slowly. "Family," he said quietly, "should sleep with both eyes closed." Kunle's smile faded slightly. The next morning, Bisi came again, this time with gifts. Clothes, food, toys for the children, everything looked thoughtful, loving. Amara smiled warmly. "Thank you so much." Tade stood nearby watching. He noticed how tightly Bisi hugged the children. Too tight, too long, something wasn't right. Later, after she left, Tade pulled his children close and held them firmly. They laughed, unaware, but Tade's chest tightened, not with fear, but resolution. That same afternoon, he called his lawyer. "It's time," he said, "to stop reacting and start positioning." That evening, his phone buzzed, unknown number. He opened the message. "You don't know everything yet." Tade stared at it. No name, no explanation. He didn't reply because he understood something important. When people start losing control, they leak the truth, not to help you, but to confuse you. But confusion no longer lived in him. From that day, he made quiet changes, no announcements, just action. He stopped sending money through his family. Instead, he paid everything directly. School fees, bills, expenses. When asked, he kept it simple. My lawyer advised me to do it. Bise noticed first. The school didn't receive the usual transfer. I paid them directly. Silence. That silence carried weight. It was the sound of control slipping. At the next gathering, Teddy asked calmly, Sola, that business I funded, can I see the records? Sola laughed nervously. Why now? Teddy smiled slightly. That's exactly why. Kunle tried to interrupt. Let's not spoil the mood. I'm not spoiling anything, Tade replied calmly. I'm asking. Silence followed, and slowly they started sleeping. A week later, Tade incited them to his office. They came, confident, relaxed, smiling. On the table was a folder, not theirs, his. Clarity, Tade said. He opened it slowly. Inside, transactions, records, timelines, evidence, facts. Nothing emotional, just the truth. Tade said, I've been reviewing things calmly.
I've been reviewing
Bise's
things.
face changed
Help
first.
me understand.
Sola swallowed.
Tad, what is this?
Kunle forced a laugh. Tade, what is this? Tade looked at him. Help me understand. Silence filled the room, heavy, loud. No one spoke because there was nothing to say. Tade stood up slowly. You said you protected me, he told Bise. You said you invested for me, he told Sola. You said you carried me. He pushed the document forward. Help me understand this. Nothing. Just silence. That silence was the confession. From today, Tade said calmly, my family is my wife Amara and my children. Bise's
You're
voice
cutting us
shook.
off?
You're cutting us off?
No.
Tade
I'm
looked
cutting
at
off
her.
lies.
No, he said quietly. I'm cutting off lies. And he walked out. Weeks passed. No noise, no pressure, just peace. One evening, Amara said softly, you look lighter. Tade nodded. I am. Inside, his children laughed freely. No tension, no fear, just life. And for the first time in years, Tade understood something clearly. Peace doesn't come from pleasing people. It comes from choosing yourself. He didn't lose his family, he redefined it. Because in the end, not everyone who shares your blood shares your heart. Thank you for watching, sweet folks. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on our sweet and captivating stories we have in store for you on this channel. Also, tell us what you've learned and where you're watching from in the comments section. Your voice matters to us here. Stay and enjoy other stories on this channel. We remain the #1 sweetest African folktales. Love you, sweet folks.